Hi, my name is Diana Jackson. I'm from New Orleans, living in Hollywood. I've been everything from a set PA to a director's assistant to producer's assistant to actor's assistant, and hopefully in the future I'll be making movies that you're spending $200 million to see. So check it out.
You're originally from where?
New Orleans, yeah.
And what made you decide to come out to Hollywood?
Well, I had originally planned to move out to Hollywood after I graduated college from film school at the University of New Orleans, but because New Orleans had a boom of film going into the city, I didn't have to leave. So I was lucky enough to get work with some of these A-list crews and be a really small fish or a big fish in a small pond, and instead of come out here and have all the competition. So I chose to stay there until Katrina.
So Katrina's why you left, or?
That is exactly why I left. I had just started, was just interviewing for a job on Deja Vu, the big Denzel movie. I think I was up to be one of the 3 production secretaries in the office. And then Katrina came and blew us all away, and I ended up going to New York for a job on The Devil Wears Prada. So luckily I had been offered a job, I think, the week before. And I was like, oh, I already have this other gig, so no, I'm cool. I'm going to stay in New Orleans. That's where my family is and everything. And so I ended up going, I called them and the job was still available, so I ended up headed out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now, when you first got into film school, or did you? What was your first job?
Well, I interned the summer before I graduated, which was the summer of '03, on Mr. 3000, and I was in the art department. And then I interned on A Love Song for Bobby Long. The first one being a very big Disney picture, and then the second being, a smaller independent feature, but with John Travolta and Scarlett Johansson. So, and then my first paying gig was on this Lifetime movie called Torn Apart on set. And yeah, it about tore me apart, basically. I was like the only PA. They were understaffed and underpaid, and we were working like 18-hour days. So that was a real insight, going from the art department to set, and sort of getting an idea of how that worked. And
So you went from working these 8-hour days to working 18-hour days.
well, I was working 12-hour days, but it wasn't as strenuous. You're in different settings and you're making crafts, and you're going look at fabric, and it really sort of like did a great. Was really a creative outlet. And where a set, it's very like you're in the military almost. So then I went from there to be a director's assistant on the Canal Street brothel movie. It was like a TV film shot about the hookers in Nolans, and it was a true story. And then I went back to the art department on a film called Backwater, which I think changed the name to Venom, and that was a lot of fun. And I just sort of floated around. I went back to the office, worked on Big Mama's House 2, and production secretary, and I was just getting an idea of everything.
So you've been on a lot of big films. Did you have to call all those people, or were they calling you?
Toward the end, I started getting, toward the end of my work in New Orleans, I started getting some calls, but I was always calling people.
On the phone?
I was harassing them until they gave me work, and a lot of times they didn't have work available.
Was film school good for getting leads and networking? Would you say?
Yeah, because if I wouldn't have been in film school, I wouldn't have been able to have those internships, because you had to be a student. That was the requirement for both films. So if I wouldn't have had that opportunity, I would not have met those people, and that's what was my jumping board to start my network group.
So you think network has been a big key to this whole?
Absolutely, always. I mean, you can never just sort of wait and expect a job to fall on your lap. I mean, as you continue and you start working more, it starts to happen more. You start getting more phone calls, but very rarely. I'm always sort of hustling for the work, calling everyone, seeing what's out there.
So now, this new film you're on, you're going to Hawaii for.
Yeah, it's a TV show.
Oh, TV show, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They're filming in Hawaii strictly to save money, you think? Or?
Well, the TV show is actually Hawaii 5-0.
Okay, well
so that's why that one's filming there, because they want the location, I guess, to be authentic.
Have you had to go out of town a lot for work lately?
I did. Well, after I left New Orleans, then I went to New York, and then after New York, I ended up working with an actor and traveling to China and Australia and Ireland and Pittsburgh. We did a movie in Pittsburgh, and I came out, I was like, well, I need to be in LA because I wanted to get into the development side of things. And so I stopped traveling, and I came out here, and I wanted to interview at some of these studios, and I'm talking to all these development heads and things. They're like, no, we need someone with agency experience. And I'm like, okay. And mainly they want to know that you can handle a busy desk, that you can answer the phone and be on the ball. It's like, have you ever been on a feature film set? You're running everywhere. But it's hard for them to think outside the box. And so I just went back into production and started doing my own thing because I wasn't getting work in the offices,
And do you find yourself losing to local players on these outside gigs on something? If they could save money just flying you out to do the job. Are you getting out to any of these jobs? Or?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, the job that I'm on now, they don't want to pay for me.
Have somebody there locally.
Yeah, they want to use locals as much as they can. They want to use locals, and that comes into the tax incentives, because their tax incentives are not as they don't get as big of a break if they're using all these LA transplants.
Right.
They need to hire locals, and which is great for the local economy.
So what do you think California, Hollywood could do for the local economy to get those people working here?
Well, they need to start making movies here again. I mean, a lot of TV is made here still, and a lot of the studio systems, but the movies go out. I mean, Louisiana has great tax incentives. Detroit right now is huge. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, even Canada. I went to work on a job in Toronto, went to Findor, and it's just outsourced, really. And they did hire mostly locals.
So it's a bunch of Canadians.
Yeah, I mean, in New Orleans, the locals have, the tie on the market. Very, seldom do they fly everybody out. They'll fly the producers out, maybe the first AD, and then the rest are locals. And, that's it.
So that's what we're trying to touch base here is like the local union guys here that, came out to be grips or valley workers and stuff,
Right.
that are losing their jobs because they're getting local people.
Yeah, of course.
So, we're trying to touch base on, a little bit of that stuff. Have you seen the quality of work diminish outside of Hollywood?
No.
Has it gone up, you think?
I don't know. I think people are more laid back outside of Hollywood. Hollywood professionals have a very sort of tendency of thinking they're the only ones that know how to make movies. I noticed that a lot working with LA crews compared to New York crews down in New Orleans. New York crews, they'll be in your face and they're yelling and they're very excited, but they never make you think that you can't do the job. Whereas in LA, they'll be very sweet. I noticed a lot of the LA locals, they'll be very sweet, and then you're fired the next day because they think you're incompetent. So it's just a different way of doing things. Yeah, and especially since more and more movies are not getting made here. So, that sort of mentality isn't holding up anymore.
Now that you moved out here, do you think that it would have been better to stay someplace like New York, New Orleans? Or do you think that...
Well, for what I want to do, I want to produce. So basically, no, because a lot of the productions are happening in New Orleans, they're not getting started here. I mean, they're not getting started on these offset places. Like New York, they are, obviously, because there's still a lot of offices up there and people based there. But
it originates.
Yeah, it originates here, and this is where the idea sort of spawned, and the networking here. Everybody's sort of working towards something. There's a huge, obviously, everyone here is filmmakers. Mostly the LA, area is made up of filmmakers. So very easy people to have at your access. Like, if I need Val for my short, just call him up and he'll PA for me. And it's a lot easier to get people together here, and I think it's a lot easier to sort of make things happen on short notice and on a stretch your dollar and things like that when you're on a smaller scale.
So Hollywood's definitely the place for you now. If somebody said, "Well, we're doing this production up in Canada, but it's a require you to move out here for 6 months," would you be willing to move?
Canada, maybe not so much. I mean, this prospect has come up for Hawaii, and yeah, I mean, I sort of just go where the work is, which is sort of pulling me away from some smaller projects that I'm set up as a producer. But got to pay the bills. So if I get a job offer, it's very rare that I turn something down. So
Compared to where the business is now, where do you see it headed in 5 to 10 years?
well, you're starting to see this already. People want to make films for nothing. They want no-name people. Yeah, exactly. Like what you're doing now. They want, these teeny tiny budgets. I know Paramount just set up a very like small branch of their company to cater to budgets under like 200,000, but even smaller. I mean, people can make feature films for like 10 grand now. So like all these big names are going out the window, and if you have a quality story and you can get it on film, people are going to buy it, and they're not dropping the big bucks anymore, and everything's viral. If you get something on YouTube and you get enough people watching it, people are like overnight celebrities now. Like that's how, right? That's how Justin Bieber, the little, teeny bopper, and this Little Boots girl out of the UK, and Lily Allen on MySpace. And I mean, I know that's music stuff, but
Viral videos.
yeah, it's huge. It really is. And Paranormal Activity, I think, started out as like a viral, not the film, but the word of mouth obviously is huge. And I don't think people are putting as much money into the publicity anymore. And yeah, but I think a lot of the problems that Hollywood's facing now are created by Hollywood. It's like they want instant success, and they're still throwing a lot of money at it, but if it's not instant success, it's considered a failure. And this is more geared toward TV. I notice a lot in the network system. If it's not pulling 10 million viewers out of the gate, they put so much pressure on the crew and on the actors that the creative, juices sort of go out the window. And I just have this vision of like all these little network guys like emaciated and like crunching in their cubicles and getting like slapped to make the numbers the way that they want them. And they want overnight successes. And a lot of the greatest TV shows didn't start off as a hit right out of the bat, and they're just not giving it the time anymore that it needs. So
what do you think about reality stars and reality TV?
Oh gosh, I think yeah, it's sort of sad where you see sort of like actors doing these sort of reality shows. I guess they can be entertaining. It's not something that like I really jumped on the bandwagon, but some of them are really heart-wrenching and great entertainment.
What about like Heidi and Spencer getting paid $150 or $150,000 to show up at like a nightclub for a night?
Yeah, I don't really agree with how Americans have turned celebrity into this huge sort of money jackpot, because I think it's taking our focus away from what's actually happening in this country. Instead of focusing on healthcare, or instead of focusing on the fact that we still have more soldiers going out, we're all focused on what Angelina and Brad are doing or how they're dressing their kid. And also, I think the safety of these individuals and the people around them are sort of going out the window. I mean, any like Tom, Dick, or Harry can pick up a camera, like the paparazzi, and they have no sort of like restrictions. There's no credentials, and what they try to do, and sort of like being in the middle of it, I've seen before. They really try to make that person act out, like punch them, or they really antagonize them. And now you're dealing with children, and like pedophiles can just pick up a camera and follow your kids wherever they want. And I think it's just crazy that we don't have laws against this thing. And I mean, my husband's almost been like run over 3 times because the paparazzi just run the red lights, and I've seen them knock over old ladies, and they don't care, and they just have no regard for people's safety. They just want the next shot. And I think that sort of like celebrity is really like degrading Hollywood. People are just famous for being famous now, and sort of the old movie stars and like the mystery is all gone because it's all instant. So it's like what's kind of helping these small filmmakers like you and me with the viral, it's also like really killing what's special about Hollywood. So it'll be interesting to see where we go in 5 years with it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
It's been great talking to you. I know you got to catch a plane.
Yeah, I'm headed to Hawaii tonight, so I'll let you know how it goes.
Awesome. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thank you. Nice to meet you.